This portion of WTOP TV's election coverage is brought to you by the C&P Telephone Company.
The polls have been closed in Virginia for almost an hour now. They closed at 7 o'clock. The polls in Maryland and D.C. will be closed within minutes. They will close at 8 o'clock. Of course, we have a trickle of returns on stand. Virginia, Gordon?
Yes, Max, CBS has already delivered Virginia to President Nixon. We have some figures. Nixon, 8,485, or 67% of the vote that's in, with only 1% of the precincts reporting. McGovern, 25%, and Schmitz, 8%. We do have early returns also in the Virginia Senate race. Mike Buchanan has that story.
In the Virginia Senate race, statewide, Republican William Scott has 6,510 votes, or 52% of the vote, while Democrat Spong has 5,116 votes, or 40% of the vote. The independent in the race, Hunk Henderson, has got 1,052 votes, or 8% of the vote. The Spong people were concerned about Henderson's candidacy, afraid that they'd steal some of the votes away from the Spong people. And locally, let's look at this. These figures here are in the Northern Virginia area on the U.S. Senate race. Spong, 1,650 votes, 43% of the vote. Scott, 2,128 votes, or 56% of the vote, with Henderson getting 44% of the vote. We also, in the 8th district, in the 8th congressional district, here's some early figures. Republican Stanford Paris, 58 votes. Democrat Robert Horan, the Fairfax County prosecuting attorney, 51 votes. Independent William Derlin, 8, and independent Robert Harris, 6 votes. Max?
We have our resident experts with us tonight, commentators James J. Kilpatrick and Carl Rowan. Gentlemen, what kind of coattail effect do you expect from the predicted Nixon landslide?
Well, Jack, if you look, you will see that down in Tennessee, Baker was supposed to be in real trouble. He seems to be winning by a landslide. You go down to Kentucky, and none seems to be in trouble. What kind of coattails do you see?
We're going to have very mixed coattails, I think, tonight, Carl. I think this coattail theory is vastly overrated. It will work if you have a certain combination of circumstances, but I don't think it's a general rule you can apply all the time. Nixon's coattails aren't broad enough this time to carry a Senate win with him, or a House, or many of the governors.
Are you still doubtful that they'll get the 5-seat advantage to give the Republicans control?
I don't believe they'll get those 5 Senate seats. I'm glad to see Howard Baker come back, but there you see you have an incumbent running for re-election, whereas in Kentucky you had none as a new candidate running for a seat that the Republicans had held. So he doesn't get this coattail thing going for him very well.
All these CBS predictions in Tennessee, Virginia, Kentucky don't surprise me particularly, but they've already given Nixon Illinois. You don't win the presidency without winning the state of Illinois. Do you think this means the landslide is now a certainty?
It's beginning to look that way, Carl, though I think these early returns probably are too high on the Nixon side. Obviously, Nixon is getting all, or substantially all, of the old Wallace vote in such states as Kentucky and Indiana, plus a point or two that Humphrey took 4 years ago. See, George Wallace couldn't rub off his influence onto John Schmitz, who succeeded him as the American Party candidate.
Well, this suggests to me that in the eyes of most voters, Mr. Nixon has adopted enough of the positions of George Wallace to make them comfortable with him. Is that how you see it?
That's a reasonable interpretation of it, yeah.
And this may indeed be one of the major factors in this election. Max, back to you.
We'll have the first results in the D.C. delegate race after this message.
Where can you find all-star third baseman Brooks Robinson?
Look in the yellow pages under sporting goods stores.
Brooks, why did you advertise in the yellow pages?
The reason we started advertising in the yellow pages, we wanted to increase our retail business or our walk-in trade.
Tell me, did it work for you?
We think definitely that the yellow pages advertising has really increased our sales, the retail sales, approximately 40%.
Remember, 3 out of 4 prospects let their fingers do the walking. Advertise in the yellow pages.
Inside this new 1973 car, you won't find anything really new. A lot of big cars have big bucket seats and a big padded dash. And what big car doesn't have a big curved windshield? None of that is really new. What is new is finding all these big things inside a little car. Introducing the new 73 Super Beetle. You won't know it's a Volkswagen until you're outside.
There's been a fair campaign practices complaint in the Fairfax supervisors race, and David French, I believe you have the story on that.
Right, out in Fairfax County, where Marion Agnew is an independent candidate, she charged today at the Commonwealth Attorney's Office that there were 4 specific incidents with her workers and people who support her. She says that persons who allegedly identified themselves as Republicans seized some campaign literature and intimidated some of her workers, 2 to be exact, at Jefferson High School. She also claimed that campaign workers in the Mason district had been harassed, and that an election judge in the Heritage area wrongfully told her workers that they couldn't distribute their literature there at the campaign voting place, even though they were 40 feet away as required. So Marion Agnew bringing the first formal charges of campaign irregularities in the area that we know of in the race for Fairfax County Board of Supervisors chairman. She's running up against a Republican, William Wrench, and a Democrat, the 2 party candidates, and is having a tough time of it. The Democrat is Gene Packard, who is also a conservationist like Marion Agnew, and the Democrats said they might split the vote, letting Wrench go on through. I'm watching all of these county races and the referenda, and we'll have more later. Max?
We have the first D.C. returns in the presidential race with partial returns. Now, these are partial returns from 49 precincts out of 137. George McGovern is leading with 17,505 votes, or 76.5% of the vote. And Richard Nixon, 5,290 votes, or 23.1% of the vote. Well, Bob Strickland is at the D.C. board with D.C. delegate returns. Bob?
All right, Max, I would like to point out, first of all, that this represents a tally of 36% of the morning boxes only. 36%, 49 precincts of 107 precincts reporting, 36% of the morning boxes only now reveal, really no surprises, that incumbent Democrat Walter Fauntleroy is leading the race, 13,786 votes. He's being followed by Republican Chin Lee with 6,053. The statehood candidate Charles Cassell follows third with 2,548 votes at this point, with independent David Dabney running with 337. The Socialist Worker Party candidate Herman Fagg has scored 156 vote tallies at this point. There is no indication a write-in vote. We recall that General Hassan Jarrah Ahmed has been running as a write-in candidate. There's no trace of a vote for him at this point. Max?
Max, we have a report just in on those Indians who have been holding the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They've agreed to leave the Bureau of Indian Affairs building. Our information tells us they have held the structure, of course, since Thursday, and they faced an eviction deadline from the Court of Appeals here of 9 p.m. tomorrow night. The White House announced that an agreement had been reached with the demonstrators this evening. Details of the agreement not immediately available. Spokesman for the Indians had been meeting with federal officials since early this afternoon. Max?
Well, we'll be back at 23 minutes past the hour with the latest results on the local elections. Now back to Walter Cronkite.
This is a 1973 gas tank. It's not much different from the old ones, but the car it comes in is different. So this year, most of the owner's manuals are recommending a 91-octane gasoline, like Gulftane Low Lead. It's the type they recommend, and the price is right, too. Gulftane costs even less than Gulf Regular. So if you have a new tank, fill it up with Gulftane Low Lead, the low-cost gasoline for new cars.
When your new furniture arrives from the hub, our experts really baby it. We cover it up and bring it gently inside. Then we set it up just where you want it, complete and ready to use. Right down to the smallest detail. You know, some stores want to charge you for delivery service, but not the hub. How could we? At the hub, we're full-service furniture stores. We care too much to be anything else.
There's something special going on at Red Barn. It's a 99-cent chicken dinner special. 3 pieces of chicken, coleslaw, and French fries, all for only 99 cents. Red Barn. Now that's something special.
Television 9, your eyewitness.